I've been creating a series of videos titled The Biggest Fill in the Blank Tutorial Online. So I did it with the GoXLR. I did a 40-minute video on how to use the whole thing from start to finish. I did the same thing with Elgato's Wavelength software. And I'm going to continue to do that, including this video with OBS Studio. This is going to be the biggest OBS Studio tutorial from start to finish. Whether you're a beginner who's trying to set up OBS Studio or you're a professional trying to find some neat little tricks and hacks so that you can make it look like you've used OBS for many years. I'm going to continue to create these big tutorials for content creators, so if that's something you're into, subscribe and stick around for the future. Oh, and if you want a chance to win a ZenBook Pro Duo 15-inch dual UX582 laptop, this thing's worth $3,300 to $3,500 depending on the day, because this laptop is very rare and hard to get. It's got an i9-10980 HK 8-core CPU and an NVIDIA RTX 3070 graphics card. In addition, there's 32 gigs of RAM, so this thing is really powerful. If you want a chance to win this laptop, keep watching the video, I'm going to tell you how. This thing is really amazing. You can play your favorite game while streaming at the same time. It's really nice because it's got those two screens, have your OBS or chat on the one bottom screen and play your game on the main screen. And you can see here, I'm going to be using it for this whole tutorial. So the main screen where I'm going to be showing the OBS and how to set it all up, and I've got my notes on the second screen so that I don't miss any important information. So this thing can be used in so many different ways. Even with editing, have your timeline on the bottom screen and then have your main editing screen right up here on the main monitor. So if this laptop is something you're interested in, I'm going to be doing a full video on how to use it and what it's got and just the amazing features that you can do with it. That video is going to come out very soon, so if you're interested, hit the notification bell so you know when that comes out. In this video, I'm going to show you some neat little tricks and hacks so that you can improve your quality of life in OBS Studio and make it look like you've been using it for years, even if you're a beginner. I'll show you how to set up OBS Studio on your PC, have the best settings for the stream, and how to have the best settings to record. I'm also going to show you how to set up your webcam, your screen capture, your gameplay for a single PC stream and a dual PC stream. Additionally, I'm going to show you how to set up your alerts, your chat, and other windows in OBS. And there's so much more than just that to this video. So buckle up and let's enjoy the ride. Keep in mind that I'm not going to recommend OBS Desktop, used to be called Streamlabs OBS, because they're simply just not a good company. They're money hungry, they bloated software, and they overpromise and underdeliver. It slows down your computer and it just simply isn't very good. If you want to know more about what Streamlabs Desktop has done, the huge issues that it has, I have a link in the top right in the cards to a video that I described there. But OBS Studio is more optimized for your system, so you're not going to use as much resources. But do keep in mind that you still need a pretty decent laptop or gaming computer to be able to run OBS and game at the same time. A lot of people are trying to game and stream or just use that computer to stream when simply it just can't handle the load. If you want to learn more in depth about what settings you need and what laptop or desktop you need to be able to stream or game and stream at the same time, I have a video in the top right in the cards, a very in-depth one to know how do you do that and how to set it all up. Now, the creators of OBS Studio rely completely on the community to support them. They don't make any money from this. It's a total passion project of theirs. They don't expect anything in return. And that's what I really love about this, is they have nothing to gain from it. They really just wanted to provide an awesome product so that you can do your content creation and not have to worry about any bloated software, upsells, or making more money out of you. In addition, OBS Studio allows a lot of plugins or attachments to their software, so you can put in new features and add different plugins to let you do really awesome and powerful features. And I'm going to talk about plugins later on in the video. Now, I'm going to assume you know how to download OBS Studio, but essentially most of the time it's going to be a Windows computer. I'm just going to download it here. Once I've downloaded the exe file, I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. And then I'm just like any other software, I'm going to go ahead and click next and install the software. Now, once I've finished the installation process, this is the window it's going to take you up on. Now, right off the bat, OBS is going to ask if you want to optimize your OBS settings for streaming or for recording or just using the virtual camera. The only reason you'd use your virtual camera is, let's say you want to put your DSLR camera into Zoom, Skype, or Teams, whatever you want to use it on. Most of the time, they won't sense your cam link or capture card in the computer. So you would use OBS to capture that camera, start a virtual camera, and pick that source in your conference or Skype or Zoom call, whatever it is. A little complicated for now. We're going to dive into just how to optimize this for streaming. So here I'm going to choose optimize for streaming. Recording is secondary. Let's go ahead and click next. Now your base canvas is going to be very important. This is the quality that OBS is going to capture the screen, and you can choose 1080p or 4K. Most people use a 1080p, 2K or 4K monitor. Depending on the settings of your monitor, you need to choose those same settings. So because my monitor is 4K, I'm going to choose that setting right over here, and that's my main display. And then with your FPS, depending on the settings or power of your computer, this might vary. If your computer isn't as powerful, go with 30 frames per second. But my computer is very powerful. This laptop is phenomenal. If you want to win it, link is down below into the giveaway. Let's go ahead and choose 60. I don't want to do 30 because it's going to be a waste for me. When you're gaming, 60 FPS is going to be better than 30 FPS. Okay, then I'm just going to go ahead and click next. And the service I'm going to use is Twitch. If you're going to do YouTube or maybe Facebook, make sure to go ahead and choose the corresponding one here. Now, this is really neat because when I connect the account here, it's going to bring in my chat and my dashboard into OBS as a window. So I don't have to have my Chrome window open to have my chat open so I can see it. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to connect my account and it's going to ask me for my user details. And then once you finish that login, you're connected to Twitch. Now make sure that you check on prefer hardware encoding, because what you want to do is use the hardware of your computer to encode your stream, especially if you have an NVIDIA GTX or RTX graphics card. In the RTX 30 series graphics card, there's a dedicated chip, and I spoke about this in my other video in the top right in the cards on how to optimize your stream setup. That dedicated chip is designed just for the encoding for OBS, so the rest of the graphics card, the other chips, can focus on rendering the game so that you don't have any lag in your game or on your OBS software. Now it's also going to show me my stream key. I can choose to show it. This is essentially the link that you make between OBS and Twitch so that OBS knows to send it to this specific Twitch account. The same thing with YouTube and Facebook. Keep this very private. You don't want anyone to know about it because then they can stream to your account. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, let's go ahead and click next. And right now it's going to do its automatic pre-calibration so that it knows what to put in your settings. We're going to go ahead and tweak them anyways because we have a pretty powerful computer. Most of the time it's already going to pick a really good setup, but we're just going to double check that and make sure. Okay, after OBS does its pre-calibration, it's going to tell you what settings it's going to automatically set OBS at. Now, because the laptop is very powerful, it's going to have 6K bitrate, and that's the maximum that Twitch can accept. Don't go higher than 6K bitrate because it's going to be a complete waste. You're not going to need it. You're going to waste your computer resources, and Twitch isn't going to even use whatever is over 6K bitrate. It's going to choose hardware encoding for the stream encoder and the record encoder. Because I have an RTX graphics card, it's going to provide NVENC new as an option, so we're going to change that later. And the recording quality is going to be high and medium file size, which is pretty good, especially for recording. We might tweak a couple things later. Base canvas, I told it to do at 4K. The output resolution is going to be 1080p. I'm not going to stream in 2K or 4K because most of the time people can't even watch that on Twitch. The nice thing about that is it's going to compress a 4K file into a 1080p file, so that 1080p video footage or signal is going to be much more crisp than if I captured the screen at 1080p and rendered it out at 1080p. And then the FPS is at 60 because I told it to do that. So let's go ahead and apply those settings. Already it's going to pull up my chat as a separate window, and this is really nice. It's a dockable window, so I can drag it to whichever side here, and OBS is essentially going to absorb it. I'm going to do this on the left is here, and then you can see here that we have a whole bunch of options. Now, the first thing you can notice here is I'm going to drag this to adjust the size of my Twitch chat. And then the same way for my stream information here, I can adjust the title, the category, the description as well, the notification that goes live to people, and so on, and click that information. By default, OBS is going to have a main scene. And what these are is the different types of scenes you have set up for your stream. So one might be your computer screen, your gameplay, with maybe your face on the side. Another scene will be maybe your full face, like I do on my stream. That way you can have sort of like an intermission screen and have different types of scenes for different situations. Now the sources are what are in the scene. So for example, you're gonna have your face cam, you're gonna have your gameplay, you might even have your alerts from people who are subscribing or following the channel. You might have a sponsors banner or, you know, whatever else you might have in that scene. And those are called sources and they work from top to bottom. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Next we have our audio mixer. This is all the audio that's going into OBS. So you can see here that I've muted my microphone, which is coming from the laptop and going into OBS. It's currently grayed out because it is muted, and you can also tell by this red mute button over here. You can adjust the volume here so that it's not as loud, and so on. If you want a full in-depth video on how to separate your audio channels such as Spotify, your game, your microphone, and so on, I do have a full in-depth video in the top right in the cards there on how to separate all of your audio in OBS, and that's going to be really helpful, but I will go over that in this video as well. Next you have the scene transitions. Essentially this is how you transition from one scene to the other, and I'll show you how to set that up as well. And you've got your toolbar up here, which allows you to do a whole bunch of different things. You can choose to go ahead and edit your transitions. You can choose what type of views you have. And one really helpful one is your darks. So if you want to create a custom dark, let's assume you want to have, just hypothetically, YouTube as a dockable window here, like your Twitch chat and your stream information. So what you could do is type in the dock name here and then go to youtube.com, put the URL in here, and you can click apply, and that'll show up as a dockable window, just like your chat and stream information. This can be very helpful, especially with plugins. Some plugins have different features and settings that you want to change, and you don't want to open Chrome to take up your resources for your computer, or it's just simply another program to have open. You can have that as a browser source instead of opening it in your Chrome tab. Now, one of the most important tabs here, and my favorite honestly, because it controls your whole stream on what you do, is the control section. You know, start streaming is pretty self-explanatory, and so is recording. Start virtual camera. This is essentially whatever is in your program monitor here, which is your preview screen. That's going to show up in Zoom, Skype, Teams, whatever you're using as a video conferencing or just a video chat platform, even Discord. Now, studio mode is a very useful tool here. If I click it, this is hard to tell with no scenes or sources set up, but essentially you've got your program monitor here, which is what stream is seeing at the time that you're streaming. So whatever is on the screen, stream is going to see it. The preview screen is, you can click through different scenes here, assuming you have more than one. You can preview that scene before transitioning into that scene. This is also very helpful when you're wanting to change something in another scene before going to it. You can make those changes and your stream isn't going to see you fiddling around on the screen, because what they're watching is just assets and layers flying around the screen. Sometimes that can be pretty unprofessional, and maybe you want to have a professional look and feel to your stream. You can adjust that scene before switching to it, which is nice. Now let's go to the settings, and this is where the meat is in this tutorial. First, we're going to start out with the stream tab here. It's already connected to Twitch, assuming you haven't done that on startup. You can do that right here. Then in your output settings here, let's go ahead and choose the output mode to advanced so that we can customize every single little thing. For streaming, the encoder is already chosen to 264. Let's go ahead and do NVIDIA NVENC H264 new. Now, this is new to RTX. This is NVIDIA's collaboration with OBS Studio. And like I mentioned earlier, the new RTX series graphics cards have a dedicated chip for OBS Studio to encode the live stream. This takes the load off of your game so that you can focus on your game without losing frames. In addition, OBS Studio isn't going to lose any frames because in that one graphics card, each chip is dedicated to a specific process. I've explained that more on the top right in the cards on how to fully set up your settings in OBS Studio. Now, in the streaming tab, this button is very important. Rescaling output is going to adjust what settings you're going to stream at, because you might want to record at a different quality. Now, for example, my screen here is 4K. I'm not going to stream in 4K because simply most people aren't even going to be able to have the bandwidth to be able to watch a live stream in 4K. So what I'm going to do is click this checkbox to rescale my output, and then I'm going to click the down arrow, and I'm going to go and check 1920 by 1080. Now when I click go live, I'm going to stream at 1080p instead of 4K. But if I record, it's going to record my OBS or whatever's on my screen in 4K. So I have the best quality that you can possibly get. So later on, maybe you want to scale it down to 1080p. It's going to be a really high quality 1080p footage. Now your rate control, this is, what type of bitrate you want to have. CBR is constant bitrate. This is the one you mostly want to use. If you do lossless, you need to make sure you have a really good computer to be able to handle that. VBR is variable bitrate. So essentially what OBS will do is in times where it doesn't need a lot of processing power to process the image or to put the image together, it's going to lower the bitrate so that it's not taking up as much computer resources. This might be helpful if you have a lower end PC, but keep in mind that when you set this, and I'm going to show you an example here, I can set my bitrate, minimum bitrate to 2500. That's a pretty good baseline. My max bitrate, let's just set that to 4000. Now what happens is, let's say for example in PUBG, you have foliage or trees or grass. It's very detailed and can be hard to render. But that's just how it is, and it's very annoying. It is what it is, and no one can really change it right now. So when your computer needs to use more power to render the trees and grass, it's going to go up to 4000 bitrate right over here. But then let's say that you're in PUBG's menu system or in the lobby, it's not going to need as much resources to render that because there's no crazy graphics or effects that are happening to be able to be rendered. So it's going to lower the bitrate so that your computer doesn't need to use as much power. I would be careful using this because sometimes it can make your stream lag when it, adjusts or changes. And it also will lower the quality of your stream just a little bit. So I would use that with a grain of salt. I'm going to stick with constant bitrate because that's what most people are going to do, and that's what I do. And because I have a pretty good computer, I'm going to do 6000 bitrate, which is the max of Twitch allows. Same thing with YouTube, and Mixer used to do 10K, but RIP Mixer. For the preset, you can choose quality. I'm going to do max quality because, again, a beefy computer. But if you're finding that your rendering quality of your image is really high, but maybe it's laggy, I would take the quality down a little bit and until it is pretty good to go. And the profile, I'm going to choose high, but main is pretty popular too. That's not a huge deal. Now in the recording tab, it's very easy. You can choose how many audio tracks you can export. So later on, when I show you how to import your audio into OBS, you can choose what track it goes to. So in the recording, let's say your microphone is set to track 1, your game is set to track 2, and let's say your music's set to track 3. OBS will export those 3 tracks separately so that let's say your Discord is also set to track 4 and your team gets really loud, you can lower that in your editing software. So depending on how many audio tracks you want, you can choose that here. And then encoder, just like before, we're going to choose the NVIDIA NVENC H264 new. If you have new, use that because it's way better than just the regular one. If you don't, just use NVENC H264. That's what it is. Now I do not want to rescale my output here because I'm going to record in my native resolution, which is 4K. I don't need to export 1080p on my recordings unless my computer can't handle it. I want to be prepared for the future, so maybe I want to scale the video up and zoom into something. I can do that without much quality loss. Now rate control, this is just the same. I'm going to set this to 20,000 bitrate because my computer can handle it, but also because you want to be able to have really high quality with your recordings. If you do 6K, totally fine. That's probably what your computer can handle. But if your computer is powerful and can handle more bitrate, put more bitrate. You can go as far as I think 50,000 bitrate, which go by all means do it. But I'm going to stick with 20,000. It's a pretty good standard. And then the quality, I'm going to go with the high preset with max quality, and then the profile is going to be high again. I'm going to have really good quality recordings. Now in this audio tab here, not really important. We're going to do all the audio in the audio tab here. Now your channels must be stereo because, for example, if you're playing a battle royale and you hear gunshots to the left, it'll be in your left headphones and right on the right headphones. You're going to be able to hear that on the stream as well if your viewers are using headphones. So don't do mono because that means all the audio is going to go to both headphones at the same time, even if the shot is this side of the screen or this side of the screen. So stereo will let them work accordingly. Now your desktop audio, it's set under default, which that's going to be your main computer audio, so your game, your Discord, your music, all of that. Desktop audio 2, we're going to disable that for now. For your mic or or auxiliary audio, which is going to be your microphone, it's already chosen this by default. You can choose specific microphones if we plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to plug in my microphone here, and this is just the Shure MV7. It's going into an audio interface here. Looks like it's getting audio there. And then I'm going to go ahead in here and choose, instead of default, well, I might have to apply all of this, close that, and then let's go back to settings, go to audio, mic auxiliary audio, and here it is, the UMC22. Let's go ahead and click that, go ahead and apply, and if I close that, you can see that audio shows up now. If I unmute it, there's the microphone. I'm just going to turn it up here, and you can see that audio jumping up. I'm going to increase that. So the microphone generally is going to be right here. Now, just in case my microphone is too quiet, I can go to the settings here, go to filters, and I can add a filter, and then let's just do gain, do OK, and you can increase it. Let's just minimize this so that we can see what it's doing to the audio here. So as I'm talking, I'm increasing it, and this microphone audio is going to go up. Now, it's okay if the audio is hitting the red. It's not a problem as long as it doesn't hit the end of the red. You want to keep your audio from your microphone between the red part here and right about here. You don't want to go further than this because when you do get loud, you don't want it to peak. And then your game volume should be in the yellow bar over here. So, you know, whatever audio is on your game, and then your music should be underneath this yellow line, so towards the end of the green here. That's usually a good spot to have it. All right, so I'm going to close this and let's go back to the settings. So now that you have all of your audio set up in the audio tab here, if you want to be able to add extra channels, so separate them to Spotify, your Discord, game, microphone, all of that, I have the video in the top right in the cards there. And you're pretty much all set with all of your audio. Now in the video tab, this is the base of what happens. So this is the quality that OBS is going to capture your stream, which is your screen or your videos or anything like that. So you want your base canvas to be at whatever your monitor settings are, and that's what I've set it here. Your output also needs to be the same. So let's go ahead and set it the same. Let's go ahead and apply that. Now, when you record, this is the output it's going to record it at. But if you remember in the output in the streaming tab, we checked rescale output to 1080p. It's going to stream at 1080p, so that's good. Now back in video, this is also a big part in maybe you have a slower computer. Choosing the downscale filter is going to be very helpful. Bicubic and then Lazarus. So Lazarus is the highest quality you can get, but that might implement some lag into your recording. So just be aware of that. If your recordings or live streams are laggy or dropping frames, you might want to bring this down a little bit. And then your output FPS, that's set right here. You have a bunch of options. Stick to 60 if your computer can handle it. Now keyboard shortcuts, pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. You can choose what you want to start and stop recording and so on. Lots of options here. I use the Stream Deck because it's way easier. I just press it right next to my mouse and it does exactly what I need it to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then for the most part, we're pretty much set up. Now we just got to add some sources and some scenes. All right, so first I'm going to show you how to create a scene. First, there's the plus button, or you can right click in the scenes tab here and click add. And let's just call it scene tune for now. Okay, now that we've created our scene and it's pretty easy to understand, you can drag it to the top or the bottom, whatever you want it to do, order it the way you want it. You can also use these arrow buttons to send them up or down, but honestly, it can get a little confusing sometimes. I just prefer dragging it where I want it to go. So when I click my main scene, I'm going to see my sources tab here. So let's go ahead and right click, do add. Let's go ahead and add a display capture here. So this is going to be my main computer screen. I'm just going to click OK, and it's going to, you know, do a bit of inception here, but essentially it's capturing whatever my screen is seeing, which is going to include OBS as well. Now I can also choose what type of monitor I can capture. So if I choose my other one here, it's going to choose the second screen on my laptop, which has got all my tutorial notes and so on. I'm going to make sure it's my main screen here and just do OK. And you can see that it's full screen here. One thing to note is if you select sources here, you can choose to do different things with it with the options down here. Properties will allow you to go back and adjust the settings of it, and you can choose whether you want to capture the cursor or not. So with my mouse moving around in this preview screen here to see what it's going to pick up, the mouse isn't showing up, but if I check the cursor on, you'll see your mouse show up again. So let's go ahead and click OK. In addition, if you have the source selected, you can go to filters and you can add whatever filter you want. So let's go ahead and add a color correction. Let's do OK. And you can, well, let's first make this bigger so that we can see what we're doing here. And then you can, adjust the brightness here. You can adjust the contrast. You can add some brightness to it, put some saturation, so make the colors pop. You can shift the hue, so completely change colors, which is, that's actually actually pretty interesting. You can change the opacity, so maybe you want to, you know, show a sponsor banner and just kind of reduce the brightness of it so it's slightly see-through, so it's not completely taking away the experience of the stream. You can do that, totally up to your preference. And then you can also select it here and just delete it, so you can remove it completely. There's other filters here, so let's go ahead and click the plus sign. You can apply a LUT, so for example, if you know more about editing, you can do a color grade to your cameras like the one here. You can export that as a LUT, and then you can click here and import it when you're using your camera here to put it into OBS. Now there's a bunch of things you can do with this. I'm going to leave it at that because, you know, there's so many options you have. Let's go ahead and add a new source here. Okay, so now that we've got our display capture set up, let's go ahead and put our face cam in so that, you know, people can see our face while we're gaming. So right click, do add, or we can click this plus button. Let's go ahead and add a video capture device, and you can call it whatever you want. Click OK. Right away, it's going to choose my webcam that's in my camera, that's in my laptop, and then you've got the option here to change the device. I have a Camlink 4K connected with this camera set up, so you can see here that I've got my main cinema camera going into my Camlink 4K and into the computer. And right off the bat, the defaults are going to be okay. So let's click OK. First, let's right click and go to the properties, and we can change the settings here. So if I just increase the size of this so we can see the options here, it's got its device defaults, which you can change that. You can go to custom and adjust the settings, but this is fine the way it's all set up. Now it's going to show up like this. Let's go ahead and just decrease the size. We'll put it to the side. Now, one little trick here is if you hold the Alt key on your computer and you click and drag the tab here, or the little square here, you can essentially crop the image. So I'm going to crop the right side and a little bit of the bottom, slight bit on the top. That's a lot. We'll do a little bit more on the bottom, so we kind of have a little bit of a widescreen look, and we can have that on the screen there. So if I hide my display, this is what it would look like, and let's assume the gameplay is here. You know, it's not, because, you know, OBS is on the screen. If I minimize this and, you know, play my game, that works just fine. Now keep in mind that a camera like this is going to have an audio source. So you can see that when you've created that video capture device, it creates an audio channel with it. So obviously you don't want to hear two of you, because you're going to have your main microphone here and the microphone from in the camera. You don't want to hear that echo. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and mute that audio source. And what I can do is on the settings cog here, we can click it and do hide. So now I don't have to be worried about it. It's not going to be accidentally unmuted, and it's not going to clog up my system to where I have to scroll through all of my audio channels to be able to find the one I'm looking for, because I don't want to be scrolling through obsolete ones or ones that I just don't use entirely. Okay, so we've got our main game capture here and our screen capture. One little trick here, if you don't want to show your desktop, or let's say you have OBS open on your screen here, but you don't want your audience to see it, you just want them to be able to see your gameplay, here's how you do that. So we can add a source here. Let's go ahead and do game capture. Now your game capture would have to be open for this to work, or your game should be open for this to work. Once that's open, you can choose that specific window. It'll show up here, and you can choose to check that option. Let's say PUBG is open. PUBG will show up here when that happens. Go ahead and select that game, and let's go ahead and choose OK once it's done that. It's not going to work right now because I haven't got a game open, and it's not going to choose that game. But once you have that game open, select it, it'll be good to go. Now if you delete that display capture and have the game capture underneath your main face cam here, your game will appear underneath your face. So for example, let's get rid of this game capture and you can see that we've got our face here and we've got our main screen capture. If I drag my face cam or this camera underneath the display capture, it's not going to show up. So essentially it works from top to bottom. The bottom layer is what's going to be shown last, and generally this is going to be your screen. So if I drag my webcam or my face cam back on top of the bottom screen capture, it's going to show up on the screen. Now one thing I want to show you to do is in the second scene, if we just transition here, you can see it's a basic fade transition. I'll show you how to change that if you want to. Let's go ahead and add a video capture device, and because we've already added this capture before, we'll add the existing one and choose the one we created. It's going to drag that in. We can scale it up to the main size of the composition here, and if I select the source and click the lock button, then I can't click and drag it everywhere accidentally, because that can happen. If I unlock it, I can select it and move it around. Let's go ahead and just snap it back in place and lock it so I don't mess with with it. Now let's assume this is your main chatting screen, and that's great, but how do you add your alerts, or when people subscribe or donate or something like that? You need to be able to import that into your stream. Now for a lot of people this can get complicated, but it's actually very straightforward. You need to use a separate service which allows you to track the events that happen on Twitch. What I use is Stream Elements. It's one of the best systems to track what happens with your Twitch channel. So if someone subscribes, donates bits, follows the channel, or if someone wants to donate. Stream Elements is a great way to allow your audience to donate to you as well. There are other services out there that allow you to do the similar process like Streamlabs, but that's linked to the Streamlabs desktop. It's not a great system. Again, there's issues with that. If you want to know about that, link is in the top right in the cards on what Streamlabs has done wrong with the whole streaming industry. So let's stick with Stream Elements. I'm going to go ahead and open Stream Elements on my main screen here. Let's go ahead and click it, and you're going to be greeted by this screen here. And you can choose to sign up, which will make you connect to your Twitch account or YouTube, Facebook, whatever you use. And then you're going to be greeted by this screen. This is already going to be pretty blank if you haven't used it before. I've got a whole bunch of stuff because I stream pretty regularly, stream almost every weekday. You should come check it out, link is down below. But what we're going to do is go to new overlay, and we're going to set it to, let's say 1440p is fine. And depending on how you've set your canvas up in OBS Studio, let's say you've set it up for 4K, you can choose a custom one here and set that to 4K, but then it's not really going to be necessary, to be completely honest. You know what, you can do 2K, which is 1440p. I'm going to stick with 1080p because you're not going to need anything more than that. Let's go ahead and click start. And you can choose to add a widget here. So let's go to alerts, alert box, and we've got our alert box here. Let's click on it, go to the settings, and this is where you choose what your follower alerts, subscribers, donations, bits, hosts, raids, all that kind of stuff with Twitch. So let's stick with the follower alert for now. Let's go to the settings button here, and it's got some default ones here already. You can choose to set an image or put a video on your screen when someone follows your channel, and you can choose to upload a specific sound that you want. Now, if you have audio in the video that you want to upload to your alerts, you can adjust that volume here. And if you upload a custom sound effect, you can adjust that volume here as well. Now you can customize what the message says when someone follows your channel. So for example, here it's got name in the brackets, is now following, or you could, customize whatever you want here. Keep this name because you kind of want to give them a shout out. It's an incentive for your audience to follow your channel. They get to see their name on your screen. So keep this name option here, because whoever subscribes or follows, this name is going to be substituted with their name. It's not going to say name is now following. It's going to say murrayfrost followed your channel. Now, the layout here is where the text will show up. So for example, if I close this and let's go to the subscriber alert, some people can choose to say something when they subscribe to your channel on Twitch. Now, their message can show up on screen and you can choose to show that, but this will tell the notification where to put their message and their name. So for example, if we click this button, the message is going to be overlaying the image or video that you put right over here to show up when someone subscribes. Now, if you select this option here, it's going to choose to put the message and the person who subscribed to the side of the video or image that you chose to upload. And then here is just going to put it underneath that video or image that you chose to upload. And then over here you can choose to show the subscriber message, so when they click subscribe and they type in a message and send that, it'll show up on screen and people can see it. If I scroll further down here, again, you can customize what it says, name just subscribed. You can choose how long it shows up on stream. And if you're really fancy and know some coding, you can enable that here. Now you can go to the TTS settings. So for example, if someone says a message in their subscribe alert and you want it to be read out on stream, you can choose to enable text to speech, which is really nice. Adjust the volume. That again, these are going to take some trial and error once you set it up in your OBS to see how loud it's going to be. And I'll show you how to do all of that. You can choose the voice or the person who's reading it, and you can go ahead and close that. Now, if someone has subscribed for longer than a month, or let's say you have someone subscribed for a year, you can go to your variation settings here, and it's got a resubscriber option as a default. If I click play, you'll see what it looks like on stream. That's a pretty cool animation there. If you have someone who gifts a subscription, you can have variations like that too, or community gifted as well. So let's go ahead and click play. If someone gifts a subscription, this will obviously not say somebody, it'll say the person's name, gifted Murray Frost a subscription, and it'll show the message if you want it to show a message. You can click these cogs to change the settings, but let's add a new variation. Just let's assume you want to create a new one. You can choose what options to start with. Let's go ahead and just start with, let's choose resubscription. So now it's got some parameters here of how long they need to be subscribed for this alert to be activated. You can choose the exact amount or at least. So let's assume that they've been subscribed for 12 months, which will be a year. So this is only going to activate when they resubscribe for a year. And basically the same settings here. Let's go ahead and save the variation. So once that's over here, you can click the preview button and it'll say so-and-so has subscribed. If you want to, you can go to the settings button and you can change what the text says. So just subscribed for a year or something like that. But the nice thing you can do with this is change the text, sound, and so on, so that maybe it's an even fancier animation. So people go, whoa, that's a cool animation. I want to get to that point and get that animation. So they stay subscribed up into a year. And you can do 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and click this button here. So copy overlay to URL. And let's go ahead and tab back into OBS here. And this is how we set up our alerts. So if we click the plus button, go to browser, and you can call this alerts. And then in here, you can go ahead and paste that URL. Make sure you change, and you're going to choose the settings here of the base canvas that you have set up in OBS. Like I said, in Stream Elements, I'm going to do 1920 by 1080, and that's going to be good there. You can choose to control audio via OBS. So the alert sounds or the volume, you can have a slider in OBS to control the volume of that. I'm going to check that on and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Once you click OK, you'll see the outline box over here. So we'll just scale it up just to show you what it all looks like. And you can see that you have your alerts audio here. So if I go ahead and tab back into Streamlabs, and I'm just going to drag this to my other screen so that you can see what's happening while OBS is here on screen. So if I click the preview button in Stream Elements right here, you'll see it show up. First thing you got to do is make sure you click save once you've made all of your changes. You can choose the overlay name and it'll say saved down there. Now, if I drag this to the bottom screen here, and if I click the preview button, it's going to show up on the stream here. That's pretty cool. Now, keep in mind that you can also adjust where this shows up on stream. So I'm going to put this in the middle of the screen here. I'm going to click save. And then again, if I put that on the other screen, and on OBS, if I play that preview, it'll show up on the screen here. That's pretty nice. Now, one thing I can do is also drag this alert around. So let's say I want it to show up in the top left there. I can do that. And if I go ahead and play another preview, you'll see that the audio here of that alert shows up, and you can adjust the loudness of that alert as well. So you don't have to be stuck with just changing the audio volume from Stream Elements. You can adjust it right from OBS, which is cool. Now, one thing you might want to add are images or counters or timers or videos. And this is actually very easy. So if in my sources here, let's go ahead and click plus, and you can either choose an image depending on what it is, or you can choose media source if it's a video. And this can kind of be handy if you want to have a seamless transition into, let's say you want to promote an ad or have a fun trailer or something like that. I'm going to do an image because this is going to be the same process for everything, and I'm going to do OK. Call it whatever you want. I'm going to browse. Let's go to my desktop here, and let's go ahead and just import an image, and I'll just click OK. Now you can drag this image anywhere you want. Let's say it's a sponsor banner or whatever it is. I'm just going to lock the alert so I don't mess with it accidentally. You know, you can scale it up, all kinds of stuff. Same thing with the video. Pretty self-explanatory, really easy and straightforward. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about are stinger transitions, and these can be very powerful and pretty cool to keep your audience engaged, interested in what's going on, and just make things look pretty cool. So I've got stinger transitions on the website, ampusfilms.com. Link is down below in case you want to download them. A bunch of them are free and a couple of them are premium. So if you want to support the channel, that's a great way to do it. This is my full-time job and I appreciate that. Thank you. So on the website here, you've got some free ones. You've got some other ones, a bunch of them. This is one of my most popular ones. It's got a basic 10 transitions here. Let's just go ahead and stick with some matte stinger transitions. Now there's a difference between matte stinger transitions and regular stinger transitions. So what I'm actually going to do is, let's go back. I'm going to just download a regular transition here. Let's go ahead and download this one. And then once I've downloaded this, I'm just going to save it to my computer, and it's going to download a zip file. I'm just going to go ahead and show in folder. I'll go ahead and extract it, and then you can see it right over here. And then we're left with this. So with our transition here, let's go to OBS, and in the scene transitions here, let's go ahead and click this, and let's go ahead and add a stinger. Call it whatever you want. Click OK. Let's go ahead and browse the file. I'm going to go to my desktop, go to the one that I downloaded, select it here, and you can choose to preview it. So if I just make this here so I can see what I'm doing, you can do preview transition. Now you can see what happened there is the screen changed before the stinger transition was completely covering the screen, and you don't want that to happen. Now with the stinger transitions that I've made on my website, the screen is completely covered at 1 second into the transition, which is 1000 milliseconds. So if I scroll up over here, let's go ahead and do the transition point as 1000, because this is where the screen underneath the transition is going to change to the next scene that I want to go to. So let's go ahead and preview it again over here, and you can see that you can't tell the screen changes because it's completely under the transition. Now with a matte transition, which I'll show you how to use that as well, you can use options here. I'm not going to do that right now. We'll get to there in a second. So let's go ahead and click OK. Now when I change from one scene to the other, if I click it here, you'll see that my whole screen will be completely covered, and then the scene will change. That's really nice. It's a pretty neat feature from stinger transitions. Now with my matte transitions, let's go ahead and go to the settings on the button here, go to properties. When you download a matte stinger transition from my website, which by the way, a bunch of them are free, make sure you click use a track matte, which is essentially, I'm not going to make it all complicated. There's a white version of the transition that helps make it really cool. So that essentially what this allows you to do is you can see your current scene and the destination scene at the same time. And I use this on my stream all the time. So now if you've set up all of your scenes the way you want them to go, you're ready to go live. And it's as simple as clicking the button start streaming. That's it. And the same goes for start recording when you want to record whatever you've got on your screen here. Now, plugins or add-ons to OBS Studio can get very complicated in and of itself, and often individual plugins deserve their own video on how to use them and set them up, because of sometimes they take a little bit of installation and setup to be able to get them working correctly. But I will dive very briefly into what these plugins are and what you can do with them. For example, the move transition, which is a really nice feature on the OBS community. A lot of people, because OBS Studio is open source, a lot of creators help build these attachments or plugins to OBS Studio so that you can improve your stream quality and just have a better experience. Move transition isn't an exception. It allows you to move your sources rather than using a stinger transition. So it moves the source around and adjusts to whatever that final scene is. So from one scene to the other, it's going to move stuff around so that it looks really cool. Move transitions and most other plugins are too complicated to get into this tutorial because it's already a long one, so I think we'll end it there. But I will be making dedicated videos on specific OBS plugins. And if that is an interest to you, subscribe and stick around, hit the notification bell so you know when those come out. So I hope you had a good time. That was 3 or 2 hours of recording for me, so I'm going to go take a break. And if you enjoyed, subscribe, stick around for the future. I create a whole bunch of these tutorials. Hit the notification bell so you know when those videos come out. Chances are that when you're watching this video, you are a content creator, and I created a record label called ASUS Beats. You can use the music on any streaming platform or video content creation platform such as YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, whatever it is. You can listen to the music on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, or just search ASUS Beats on whatever music streaming app you use. All the music from my record label is DMCA safe and royalty free, so you can use it in your videos, even for your clients, for free. You don't even have to pay for it. If you want to learn more about it, go to ampusbeats.com, and hope you enjoy it. Let me know down in the comments if you're having any issues with your streaming setup, or if you want to have more of a direct messaging option or talk to my support team or my moderators. Feel free to join the Discord server. I also live stream almost every single weekday, so if that helps or you prefer that way of communication, come say hi, link is down below. And before you go, don't forget to leave a like, that would really be appreciated. Help YouTube push the video out to everyone else. That means a lot, thank you. And I'll see you next time, but until then, make something great. Oh, my back is so tired from standing up straight. Oh my goodness. All right.